In 1927, a boy was born in rural Arkansas to sharecroppers. He never finished school. He left after the 7th grade. His first job, he was 12 years old, was cutting lumber at his uncle's sawmill for $1.50 a day. He picked cotton. He sold wood door to door. He drove trucks alone across the country for years. Nobody was watching. Nobody was taking notes. And then, one day, this boy from nowhere built the largest publicly owned trucking company in the history of the United States. His name was Johnny Bryan Hunt, and almost nobody knows the real story. You've seen J.B. Hunt trucks your entire life, on every interstate, on every highway, moving everything America buys, eats, wears, and builds. But here's what they never told you. J.B. Hunt was not built by a businessman. It was built by a truck driver, a cotton picker, a failed rice hull salesman who lost $19,000 in his first year and got up the next morning anyway. And it was built by his wife, Janelle, who today is worth $5 billion, and who started the whole thing stuffing envelopes and doing the books from their kitchen table. 1. The desperate idea that nobody believed in. 2. The partnership that the entire trucking industry laughed at. 3. The handshake that changed American logistics forever. 4. The woman behind the empire that history keeps forgetting to mention. Stay until the end, because the most important person in this story isn't who you think. Heber Springs, Arkansas, 1927. The Great Depression hasn't started yet, but in rural Cleburne County, it doesn't need to. The Hunt family is already living it. Johnny Bryan Hunt is born into a sharecropping family, 7 children, parents working land they don't own. At 12 years old, J.B. Hunt leaves the 7th grade and walks into his uncle's sawmill. 12 hours a day, $1.50. Not $1.50 an hour, $1.50 a day. He works there for years. He cuts lumber, he sells it door to door. After a brief stint in the U.S. Army, Hunt spends the 1950s doing whatever it takes. Lumber salesman, auctioneer, truck driver. Driving a truck alone across America, thousands of miles, endless hours of silence, is where J.B. Hunt gets his education. He watches the freight moving. He watches what gets shipped and where. He watches which routes make money and which ones bleed. He watches the entire American economy from the cab of a truck, mile by mile. He is not a passenger in these years. He is studying. And then, driving through Stuttgart, Arkansas, he notices something that everyone else had been ignoring for years. Rice hulls. The outer shell of rice grains were considered agricultural waste. But J.B. Hunt noticed something. Rice hulls are light, absorbent, perfect for use as poultry litter. There was only one problem. Nobody had ever managed to compress rice hulls efficiently enough to pack and ship them. J.B. Hunt invented a machine that did exactly that. He and Janelle sold their house. They took out loans. They moved to Stuttgart. In 1961, J.B. Hunt Company opened for business, and in their first year, they lost $19,000. Here is where most documentaries about J.B. Hunt make their biggest mistake. They tell you about J.B. They forget about Janelle. Janelle DeBusk was born in Heber Springs, Arkansas in 1932. She met Johnny Hunt in high school. From the moment they married in 1952, for the next 56 years, she was the architecture behind everything he built. While J.B. was on the road, driving, selling, hustling, Janelle was at the desk. She did the books, she managed the finances, she handled collections, she kept the company alive in the years when the numbers said it should have died. In 1961, when they lost $19,000, it was Janelle who said, "We got up the next day and we just kept working." Not "we almost quit," not "we considered stopping." We got up and we kept working. That is the sentence that built a $20 billion company. When J.B. Hunt Transport went public on NASDAQ in 1983, the financial foundations that allowed that transition were the foundations John-El had been building for 22 years from a kitchen table. Today, John-El Hunt is worth $5 billion. She is 93 years old. She is still alive. The name on the truck is his. The empire inside it belongs to both of them. After losing $19,000 in year one, the Hunts kept going. The rice hull operation became the world's largest producer of poultry litter. And in doing that, J.B. Hunt realized something that would change everything. They needed trucks. So, in 1969, J.B. Hunt bought his own 5 trucks, 7 trailers, Stuttgart, Arkansas. That is the real founding moment of J.B. Hunt Transport Services. Not 1961, not the rice hulls. 1969, 5 trucks. By 1983, just 14 years after buying those first 5 trucks, J.B. Hunt Transport goes public on NASDAQ. At the time of the IPO, 550 tractors, over 1,000 trailers, revenue of over $60 million. From 5 trucks to $60 million in 14 years. An 8th grade dropout from Arkansas in 14 years had built the 80th largest trucking company in America from 5 trucks. November 1st, 1989. A man named Mike Haverty, president of the Santa Fe Railway, invites J.B. Hunt onto a train. Haverty had an idea that the entire transportation industry thought was insane. Trucks and railroads, who had been fierce competitors for decades, should work together. Put J.B. Hunt trailers on Santa Fe flat cars. Combine the reach of highway trucking with the cost efficiency of rail. The trucking industry laughed. When J.B. Hunt's own people heard about the proposal, many of them thought it was a mistake. But J.B. Hunt sat on that train, rolling west from Chicago, and watched the numbers move. And somewhere outside Galesburg, Illinois, J.B. Hunt extended his hand to Mike Haverty. A handshake, no contract, no lawyers in the room, no signed agreement, just 2 men and a handshake at 60 miles per hour in the American Midwest. They called the service Quantum. It launched in February 1990 with 150 trailers. After 1 year of business, $30 million in revenue. The entire transportation industry stopped laughing. Today, that single handshake generates over $3 billion in annual revenue for J.B. Hunt alone. BNSF Railway makes over $1 billion every year from that single handshake. One handshake, 2 men on a train, from 0 to $4 billion in annual revenue. J.B. Hunt didn't just build a trucking company, he changed the way America moves its freight. J.B. Hunt died on December 7, 2006. He fell on ice. He was 79 years old. He was known for 2 things in his final years. First, the 10-gallon cowboy hat he wore everywhere. The boy from the Arkansas sawmill dressed like the king of the American road. Second, the money clip he carried, filled with $100 bills. He would hand them to strangers he felt could use them. The son of sharecroppers, the boy who left school at 12, the truck driver who spent thousands of hours alone on American highways, studying the economy from the cab. He ended up worth over $1 billion. His wife, John-El, the woman who did the books From the Kitchen Table, is worth $5 billion today at 93 years old. Today, J.B. Hunt operates over 12,000 trucks, 145,000 trailers, 34,000 employees, and generates nearly $13 billion annually. From 5 trucks, from a rice hull business that lost $19,000 in year 1, from a 7th grade dropout who drove trucks across America and paid attention. The American road doesn't care where you started. It only cares whether you keep moving. Subscribe, because next week we go inside a company that moved just as fast and couldn't stop in time.